I'm super excited to introduce speakers for this panel. They span a really broad realm of types of makers, from artists working independently to technologists working in large global agencies. So we're going to get a really varied perspective on creativity and innovation. So first I'm going to introduce Mihei Mukaida. She's co-founder of Rock Paper Robot, which is an engineering boutique specializing in the innovation and fabrication of kinetic furniture, lighting, and engagement. She has a design background and a history of working on experiential projects, having founded Rock Paper Robot after a stint at Sub Rosa. Next is Rob Gonda. He's an innovator, futurist, marketer, technologist, and serves as global head of emerging technology and innovation at Sapient Nitro. He has a very varied background, including roles spanning from strategy to engineering. And next is Eric Foreman. He's an artist focused on creating interactive installations and responsive sculpture. He's been a part of several innovation initiatives, from being an early member of pseudo programs back in the day, and a founding tenant of New Lab, and then founder of the creative technology collective Clank Studios. He's also a teacher, lecturer, and bicycle rider. And then lastly, but not leastly, we have Gela Fridman, who's the VP of Technology for digital agency Huge. She has served in many tech leadership roles at a host of agencies, including Icon Nicholson, Ogilvy, and Rapp. She's responsible for delivering multi-million-dollar engagements and is a driving force in evolving Huge from a digital agency to a technology organization. So those are my brief overview intros. Rob was teasing me for my very analog, not very emerging technology cheat sheets. If you guys could begin by talking about your work a little bit and what innovation means in the context of your work, that'd be a great place to start. So I don't know, Gela, if you want to start it off.
Sure. It's kind of hard. You can see it. I work at Huge right now, and our agency is well known for a really innovative digital experiences. We started as digital agency, so for us it's really not about transition from the traditional agency, but more about where do we go from now, being a digital agency, how do we help our clients to become more digital, how do we educate our clients and getting their brands to become really more technology focused and help them push their brands into technology.
Hi, I'm Eric. My background is a combination of academic theory, philosophy about technology and human evolution, and that transitioned into a career as an artist and a designer using interactive technology. And in the middle of that, I realized I had to learn how to invent my own technology because what was out there wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I mostly specialized in the last 10 years in physically interactive technology, things that are aware of bodies and sound and light and space. I would say half of my work is for a fine art context and half of it is contracted design work. So I work with agencies, with architects, people who are from different fields but realizing they need to integrate technology, not just technology, but also a responsive, living, intuitive feeling to whatever media they work with.
All right. So my name is Rob. Sapient, and innovation for us is actually right on our tagline. Our tagline is reinventing storytelling in a digital world. And what that means is that what we do is help our clients, meaning brands, understand technology, understanding user, people, experiences, understand the new connection points and new touch points across all the different dimensions. So when we talk about innovation, it comes in many different forms, anywhere from helping our clients with art of foresight and scenario planning, understand what's to come, all the different possible futures and how technologies can help them connect better with their clients, as well as deeply understanding technologies on the R&D side, understand what that means from an experiential perspective, understand how people expect to engage with them, simplify. And at the end of the day, it's really about making our clients successful and evolve in the digital space.
Mihei from Rock Paper Robot. As Karen mentioned, I run an engineering boutique, and part of our innovative process is kind of just how to stay sustainable as a small business, which is how we actually wind up working a lot with different agencies, simply because it pays better than kinetic furniture, which is a great way though for us to kind of bootstrap our R&D and really look into how to create new product that creates engagements with actual objects that are different and inspiring, hopefully.
So we've heard a lot today about embracing innovation through actually making things and kind of doing the thinking and making simultaneously. And it seems like a lot of the traditional marketing communications agencies are following a more linear process of the thinking happening here and the making happening later on in the process. What has your experience been in like thinking and making happening simultaneously? And for those of you that are in the more traditional agency or experiencing the traditional agency environment, how can agencies embrace that a little bit more? Rob, do you want to start with that one?
I can start with that one. So definitely we heard today, and you heard it along the history of time, show, don't tell. I mean, it's a theme that come up today, a theme that's not new. And it helps clients feel a lot more comfortable, because at the end of the day, innovation equals risk. Risk is something that not everybody's comfortable with, even though it can yield a lot greater returns. So the challenge is really not about thinking and making at the same time, but is about prioritizing the focus point and the direction and the vision. What should you be showing and why? Also try not to get bound or attracted to the shiny object. We heard a lot about, and I would love to hear some of your views. We heard a lot about innovation in art and science, innovating on living environments, innovating. We heard people talking about 3D printing and Raspberry Pis, and trust me, I love all that stuff. But at the end of the day, our job is to make our clients successful. Our job is to make is for people to make money. It's for people to get more clients. So we really have to understand to what degree we have to bring all those in, to what degree they're going to be accepted by the end user, to what degree they're going to be comfortable with using and interfacing with this perhaps new interactions. I was talking outside in the last session that perhaps all these different interactive visualizations, they looked amazing, but our job really is to focus on simplicity. So we have to not just bring in new technology and new experiences and new way to engage and interact with the brand, but also make it simple enough so it can get extremely widely acceptable. So going back to your question, definitely we have R&D labs, like apparently by a show of hands, I remember seeing like every other agency has one nowadays. And we do prototype a lot, but there's so much technology happening, there's so much going on that a lot of the focus now is not about how do we show that and can we show it, but what to focus on and what makes sense to focus on right now.
I can respond a little bit to that. I think that's a very critical point that you just made, that sometimes the maker community loses sight of because they're a little over-fascinated with the new.
Yep.
And I think if agencies have in-house R&D labs or demo labs, there's a distinction that is important to learn from your perspective, to understand how much experience and how much perspective your maker or creative type has, because I think it takes really just years of experience, there's no substitute for it, to learn to step back from what you're making and think about the overall story, the overall mission that either the brand or the agency needs, and not this is this new cool thing that we're going to make. Believe me, everyone's going to love it, because those things have very short lifespans. They might have like a blast of tweeting if it's something cool and new, but then it'll expire immediately. So even though I myself am guilty of that, I love new stuff, I love fiddling around, I'll build stuff with no idea what it's for just because I haven't tried it before. But now I've done it enough, and I look to work with people who've done it enough that they will make something and then discard it because it's not central to the story they're trying to tell. And I know Mihei has dealt with that also quite a bit.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is a time element. You know, it's like educating the client on what it actually takes to make something, because it's not as simple as just, I mean, it's not to say that digital is simple, but when you have to factor in like how something operates in the physical world, there's a lot more variables there. Like a prime example, we had worked with GE on their Brilliant Machines campaign and created a robotic arm that was able to take your picture, process your image, and draw that picture into a cup of coffee so you could drink your face in the morning. You know, it was from actual ideation, which actually Eric had helped collaborate on, to execution. It was 2 months. And during that time, which is phenomenal for anyone who knows what it means to create something that's never been in existence before. And what was interesting was from the agency side, it was like, okay, well, you know, I'm really concerned about like the progress of this. And from our point, it was like, this progress shouldn't concern you. It should amaze you. And I think that having kind of the client and agency side understand a little bit more of the steps required, like the iteration and the prototyping, will just help the whole experience be better.
So at Huge, we're actually having conversations and we're implementing a lot. Implementation and development is not really, like right now, the way that it's been approached is design is very creative and we need to iterate, but from the development in a lot of agencies are built that way, where development teams within it, they're more of production. So creative will design something and come up with an idea and then hand it off and you just execute. So the way we work at Huge is a little bit different, and we actually approach engineering more of a design as well, and so approaching the implementation from that perspective. So starting really early on with the creative team to make sure that every idea we focus on, we can actually execute and start looking at what it looks like in executed, not just on prints and designs. And that helps a lot with getting client on board and showing clients where we're actually going with an idea. So it's not necessarily a throwaway, like a prototype where you just may or may not execute, but it's more about getting their ideas into actual implementation. And that's been very successful, and it helps our creative team a lot, and it helps our UX experience and technology as well, because we can test some technologies and whether or not that's the new direction is actually going to work, and use that time to also understand what's the level of effort for us to actually execute and whether we're going to make the timelines or not and how that works.
Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit about that. Like, how much do you show your clients or your audiences, like the under the hood process? You know, is that what you're using to educate them on what it takes to make this work, or what techniques are you using to communicate to your clients and audiences what the level of effort is to make this kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, I just keep thinking back to the Brilliant Machines robotic barista bot, you know, and I mean, it's funny because like at one point you have these like client check-ins where they're coming to actually see the progress like in the lab, but you're kind of like scrambling so much to like, you're wasting time almost in, you know, setting up the display rather than working. So it's a little twofold. Like you want to have like full transparency, but at the same time, like that need to, you know, hit that kind of demarcated, finessed product. You know, it's hard even for, I think, an agency side on hardware to see like, okay, this isn't functioning just yet. Like the arm's not moving, but like, you know, this is actually spitting out like coffee or like ink onto coffee, and that's amazing. You know, like, so it's almost like going from like wireframe, like we have all of the logic planned out, and that's like a huge part of the design, but like a huge step that's been achieved prior to
the benchmarking is different with hardware than it is with other types of creativity and design, even screen-based design. If you're working on a website or something, you can see this many pages are done. If you're illustrating something, you can see this much of it has been drawn. But often with hardware, nothing works until it all works at the end. So if you bring someone in the middle, you're just in a sweaty panic, and so are they, because they think nothing's working. But that's totally normal. It always happens that way. If one little thing is not functioning, you have to take things apart, and then there's nothing to show. So sometimes I think it's an interference, but I also think I personally enjoy it, and I think that the people who hire me enjoy it too, because it's like being allowed into the kitchen. Not only is it fun to see how things are made and fascinating if you've never seen it before, but also from a maker perspective, it's important that the person who's employing you knows just how much work it is. One of the, I think, issues with technology in general, but especially how much design and innovation has exploded in the last 5 years, I would say, is that things are so good now, and they've also become so easy up to a very specific point, that it provides the false impression that you can just put an Arduino on top of this box and all of a sudden you're going to have some magical thing. But in fact, getting a couple things to demo and blink is one matter, but getting something that's really a finished product is a huge leap away from that. So I think that's valuable for people to see that process.
Yeah, we're doing about, once we're in implementation, we're doing like weekly or bi-weekly showing to the clients, and it shows progress, and it's about managing expectations and setting, and educating client and using the opportunity to show them what we've actually done so that they know and they get the level of comfort of like, yes, we know you're going to make the timeline, yes, we know you're going to get where you need to be, because we're seeing the progress and we understand what it actually takes. So we found that is pretty useful.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, perhaps it's a little bit different, but since you've been building and making things for a while, you can probably clearly estimate the level of effort up front. On the agency side, we do have a really strong project management, really strong PMO, really strong estimation and delivery tools. So to give you an idea, I mean, anything from building interactive vending machines for Coca-Cola or Unilever with face recognition, or for a client I cannot mention, building like a 3D printed bottle with built-in Raspberry Pi with internet streaming. There's a lot of different pieces that you have to put together. So showing progress, like I said, not a finished product, but showing progress. This is your 3D printed model, and this is a device computing the streaming radio. This is a GSM device that can connect anywhere. These are all the different touch buttons and physical buttons that you can interact with. This is the application that's the companion for all these different experiences, and how we're making progress on everything together. Like I said, we do show. I don't know, bi-weekly is really, I can't say that it is because it depends on the size of the project, but there will be touch points, there will be checkpoints, and digital or physical hardware project, we really need to have a plan, we need to be accountable for the plan, we need to hit the milestones, and that's really not different on a digital or physical project.
So how has kind of the changing technology landscape affected innovation for you guys? It seems like you mentioned vending machines, and I'm like, oh my God, vending machines seems to be a theme this year. And it's kind of like, I feel like in the last few years, clients have been looking for shock and awe. It's just like projection mapping and like crazy PRable, events. And it seems like there's a trend towards more product development oriented work. I mean, what kind of trends have you seen based on emerging technology, and how has that affected the work that you're making?
Well, funny you mentioned, I mean, the trends towards vending machine, we saw it years ago, not recently. We built the ones for Coke, we built the mixology machines, we built the Unilever ones. A lot of them won awards at Cannes, but then more recently, it almost feels like if you measure it by Cannes awards and Gold Lions and all that stuff, it almost feels like it's slowing down. Even though it's not. But trends in making, what we've seen is actually it's getting easier and easier. So to your point, it's not really about slapping Arduino or doing anything, but there's a lot of interfaces for making through software that's coming to life, and they're evolving a lot. So you have a lot of you can start delegating a lot of making capabilities to software developers. There's, Node.js controlled quadcopters and 3D printing and a lot of robotics that could be controlled through more and more pure software. So there's a lot, which also means that there's faster making iterations, and for agencies like us, it means that you can start transitioning a lot of those tasks to capabilities that you already have in-house. So there'll be a transition. I mean, granted, there's people that are software engineers don't have the making experience. So to your point about having 10 years experience and knowing what it takes or what to do, or on the usability side, perhaps we're lacking some of that, and that's where you bring in a lot of cross-functional teams, which we haven't talked about yet, but what teams do you form to actually spear innovation within the agency? Engineers, UX designers, strategists, ethnographers, anthropologists. I mean, we really try to cut across everything to bring in a lot of different disruption and mindsets. But the trend is, at least one of them is software is a making, and we're going to start seeing a lot of more of that this year.
I think, product design is really interesting to think about there. Just after creating this activation for GE, there were so many people who came about like coffee houses and like Guinness beer, wanting to figure out like, oh, how can we get them? And so like creating something for a one-time activation versus an actual product that needs to function repeatedly is two very different processes, but you still need that initial same step. So I think it'd be interesting to see as where agencies go with that. Like, is it possible to take what is a one-time in-market activation and have that have a longer roadmap for the client themselves? Like, can you do a large one-time robot that then you work out some of the mechanisms that lay the groundwork for an actual product design that can sell for the client or even the agency